All right, let's get right into it. We're diving into this incredibly high-stakes game of naval chess that's playing out right now in the Arabian Sea. You've got claims, you've got counterclaims, and a lot of, well, calculated silence. And it's all ratcheting up tensions between Iran and the United States.
You know, this quote right here, waves crash, tension explodes, it just perfectly captures the whole atmosphere. We're not just talking about some distant military hardware here. No. This is about a situation reaching a boiling point, and it's happening in one of the most critical waterways on the entire planet.
So, what's the spark that lit this fire? Well, it's a really bold, truly explosive claim coming from Iran, and it's aimed right at the heart of American naval power in that entire region.
Okay, so Iran comes out and claims they, and I'm quoting here, hammered the American supercarrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln. Now, to try and back this up, they put out a video. It shows missile launches, looks like it's late at night, but, and this is really the most crucial detail of all, there's zero proof in that video of an actual impact. None.
So you've got this incredibly provocative claim on the table. How did the Pentagon respond? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because their answer is just as telling for what it didn't say as for what it actually did.
Just look at the contrast in the language they're using. Iran says hammered. That's a violent, definitive word, right? But the U.S. response from Central Command hours later is just that the carrier remains fully operational. Now think about that. They didn't come out and say, this is false, it never happened, no outright denial. So this super carefully worded statement, it confirms the ship is good to go, but it also leaves this fog of ambiguity over what really went down.
So to really grasp the gravity of this whole situation, you have to understand what the USS Abraham Lincoln actually is. We're not just talking about a big boat here. It's so much more. It's a symbol of American power, a massive, massive strategic asset.
First off, let's just talk about the price tag. We're looking at a $6.8 billion warship. The sheer financial investment alone tells you just how incredibly valuable this one piece of hardware is to the U.S. Navy.
And it's not just hardware. On board, you've got about 6,000 people. That's not just a crew. That's the population of a small town, all living and working on this floating fortress, right in the middle of the sea. So what powers this whole floating city? 2 nuclear reactors. And that's the key. That's what gives this carrier its incredible, almost unbelievable long endurance capability. It can operate for huge stretches of time, super far from home, without ever having to stop for gas, so to speak.
Ultimately, its whole purpose is to be a mobile airbase. It carries dozens of the most advanced aircraft you can imagine. We're talking F-35 jets, sophisticated surveillance planes, the whole 9 yards. This gives it the ability to project power and launch strikes across enormous distances. It is literally designed from the ground up for exactly this kind of sustained long-term operation.
But for all of that power, for all of that technology, Iranian military commanders have made it a core part of their strategy to keep insisting that these floating fortresses are, in their own words, not untouchable. They say it all the time. They claim their missiles, their drones, have what it takes to actually sink one.
Now, as if all of this direct tension wasn't enough, the situation for the USS Abraham Lincoln just got a whole lot more complicated and a whole lot more stressful.
You see, the U.S. had another carrier in the area, the USS Gerald Ford. But there was a fire on board. It was forced to leave the operational zone, and right now, it's out of action.
So here's the crucial takeaway from that. The Lincoln is now shouldering the entire burden completely alone. It's carrying way more weight, it's under so much more pressure, and it's doing it in an environment that was already at a breaking point. You can't overstate the strategic and, frankly, the psychological strain on this one ship and its crew. It's immense.
And all of this, it brings us to Iran's broader strategy here. Because that missile claim, whether it's true or not, it isn't just some random boast. Oh no, it's a very calculated move in a much, much longer game.
So what is Iran's real strategy here? If the goal isn't to land one single knockout blow, then what is the objective? Well, the answer really boils down to 2 words: signaling and pressure.
You have to understand, the claim itself is the weapon. Think about it. First, it projects reach. It sends a message to the world that Iran can, at least theoretically, touch these incredible assets. Second, it tests the U.S. response. They get to see how fast America reacts, what their public messaging is like. And third, and this is probably the most important part, it just keeps the pressure on, constantly, forcing U.S. forces to stay on high alert 24/7.
This whole strategy has a name. It's called a war of attrition.
And it's not about winning one big, dramatic battle. It's about slowly, methodically wearing your enemy down. It becomes a race against time, a race against crew fatigue, against mechanical strain. It's all designed to just push your opponent to their breaking point through continuous, relentless pressure.
And that really leads to the ultimate reality of this kind of conflict. Look, the U.S. Abraham Lincoln might be a $6.8 billion fortress, but at the end of the day, it's still a machine, and it's operated by human beings. And in a long, drawn-out war of attrition, even the most powerful weapon systems in the world have a breaking point.
So this entire standoff, it all boils down to one final, pretty unsettling question. In this high-stakes game of endurance, fatigue, and intense psychological pressure playing out in the middle of the Arabian Sea, who blinks first?